On this week's podcast, we talk about the Epstein documents, complicity and power.
Bald,
blind,
and buddies.
Timmy, how are you, pal? This is a strange one because now we're recording on a Monday. I think because, A, it's our podcast and we can do what we want in spite of the 12 and 12 people that are listening. But secondarily, it's just I think as we head into the craziness of the holiday season, you know, Thanksgiving and Christmas and such, that schedules are such that it just negates your ability to be free, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
We just work it in.
So, you know, we're recording on a Monday evening. So how the hell are you, Timmy?
I'm good. Yeah, busy day at work. And yeah, it was good.
Shrinking heads?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, you do God's work. That's great. I think that anybody who ends up in a medical establishment, more often than not, is doing God's work. I mean, helping people, you know?
We try.
You may not get all the recognition and so forth, but I think that's fabulous. So.
Yeah, I saw somebody the other week and they're like, I've never had a psychiatrist like you. And I'm like, you don't say.
No, what was
makes
the,
you say that?
Yeah, what was the sort of the lead up to that? What had, precipitated that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it made him feel comfortable and, went where we needed to go, and they hadn't had that experience recently. So.
Well, I will say that you're going to be 51 in February, March?
Yep, March.
Okay. You haven't changed one iota in 30 plus years. I mean, you're the exact same smartass you were in 1994 when I first met you. I mean, you have not. I mean, we've all sort of. I shouldn't say that minimizes growth and so forth. I mean, we've all sort of matured. But I think as a functioning person, I don't think much about you has changed, and I mean that as a compliment, not as a bad thing. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Tea went down the wrong way.
That's all right. Iced tea or hot tea?
Hot tea. So
are you a hot tea guy? You're not a coffee guy?
Oh, I love coffee. I just have hot tea later in the day.
Well, it has more caffeine more often than not. You know that, right?
It's a little less potent. It's actually theobromine. That's a whole other story. So,
yeah, you get so scientific on some of these things. You're such a weirdo.
Yeah.
So. And I understand you have to throw yourself on the mercy of the court for the dozens and dozens of people listening for what you did this week. Why don't you tell everybody?
Yeah, our producer went ahead and accidentally deleted one of our episodes and trying to fix something minor. And so our producer re-uploaded it. Sorry about that. I've had a talk with him. We're going to keep him on for now. But yeah, sorry.
You want to let people know who the producer is?
That's me. So.
Yeah, exactly. Any interesting stories from the weekend? Anything fun going on or otherwise?
No, nothing major.
No?
No.
Well, I'm finishing the Jeffrey Toobin book on OJ, and it is my white whale to get a member of the prosecution from the LA Attorney General's office on to talk about it. It's been 30 years. Marcia Clark, her publicist, wrote us right away and said, you know what, she has made a vow that it ate up so much of her life, she's not talking about it anymore. And I said, you know what, she deserves that.
I respect that. Yeah.
I can't say I blame her. She's earned the right to be left alone. But I'm desperately trying to get Christopher Darden, who is running for judge in California, on just to talk about it a bit. But just to give you an idea, and the reason I'm bringing this up is I was actually summoned for jury duty in the beginning of December. This is the first time I've ever gotten a summons for jury duty. Have you ever been summoned, A, Timmy, and B, have you ever served?
I have not. Belief has been summoned, and I have a feeling, I don't know how or why, I don't know if they'd want to deal with a blind guy in the jury, the exhibits, and taking the dog out. I don't know if, I'd be happy to serve.
But that's the essence of discrimination, is it not? I mean, but how would they know that anyway?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I think they get the jury selection, at least my everybody's got theories, by the way. One of the guys I work with, he's like, yeah, I had heard it was related to speeding tickets and parking tickets in Chicago, and when he lives there. And I've always heard voter rolls. Who knows who's right, but just a couple things that jumped out at me about the jury that ultimately, decided. And again, it is a jury of peers. I get it. I lambast when people, a jury is impaneled and they reach a verdict and you don't like the verdict. You have to respect it, whether or not you agree with it, right? Mm-hmm. But of the 12 people who sat in judgment of O.J. Simpson, all were from one political party, which I find to be dismaying, whether it's the Democrats or Republicans. That's not reflective of America, number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, of the 12, 5 answered a question that said, yes, violence against a family member is sometimes justified. And 9 of the 12 believed that OJ was less likely to commit a crime because he was a celebrity. I was like, I have to take a step back. I have not read another page since then. That was a couple days ago. I got to that chapter. I said, I have to put this down now because I'm going to get too upset. But yeah. But anyhow, Timmy, I wanted to give the answer to last week's trivia question. We were talking about the government now back functioning, as it were. And in the least shocking development, they got it figured out right in between Halloween and Thanksgiving. Any thoughts as to why they did that, Timmy?
Oh, why, John?
I just think it's the busiest travel season of the year, and last thing you need is airports with delays and so forth. I mean, these guys have to answer to the voters ultimately, and I want to get out and see my mom, my dad, whatever it may be, for Thanksgiving. Get the airplanes up in the air again, don't you think?
Could be.
Yeah, and the question that I asked was, this was the longest, the one that just ended was the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. Do you know the second longest, Timmy?
Was it the Newt Gingrich, Bill Clinton standoff?
No, that's in the top 5.
Oh,
but
man.
no.
What was it?
Actually, this is a sort of an, how do you say it? Ignominious,
yeah.
Ignominious honor, which is the second longest government shutdown was also under President Trump at the end of 2018 and 2019. This one surpassed it by a few days, but again, I don't think this is something to be celebrated. 2 government shutdowns, or government shutdowns in general, whether it's Republican or Democrat, I find to be sort of childish behavior. Grow up, will you?
Yeah, just downsize it. Don't pause it, right?
Timmy, please throw in people that are dependent on the government and suckling at the teat and so forth, will you, for me?
Sure.
Just, bring everything full circle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But my question this week, as we approach what I think is the best holiday of the year, I love Thanksgiving. I love Christmas because we still have children with Santa and so forth. I love July 4th. Certain holidays I can take or leave, but I do love Thanksgiving. And as we approach Thanksgiving, it dawned on me. It is now generally a tradition that the President of the United States will pardon a turkey. It's more ceremonial than anything, right? Mm-hmm. There is some historical debate as to who was the first person to pardon the turkey. Most people believe it was Harry Truman. He was given a turkey and pardoned it. Some people have looked at the archives and found that actually President Lincoln pardoned a turkey that was affectionately named Jack for his son way back in the 1800s. But the question that I have is do you know which president formally formalized? Is that the right way to say it? Formally formalized, or
I think you could
officially
just say formalized.
Formalized the pardoning of the turkey tradition. Do you know which president did that?
Ooh, nope.
Okay. Answer next week.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And Timmy, any updates on listeners or anything that we need to be aware of, countries that are being represented?
I haven't looked at countries lately. We're getting some hits on YouTube, which is nice. Check that out. And I do think because of the uploading issues, if you haven't checked out our one on Zoran Mamdani, I think it was a good one. And I think there's useful thoughts in there. So go back and look at that. And as long as we're plugging, go ahead and share and like and subscribe and comment and all that stuff. So we appreciate you listening, and let us know what you want us to cover.
Yeah. And will you please give due credit to your wife for her creative description? What did you say about the Big Apple?
Oh, was it the Big Apple goes red delicious for communism?
Yeah.
That was her idea.
The Big Apple chooses red delicious communism or something?
Yep.
Yeah. You are so funny to me. You are so funny.
That was Blue Leaf, wasn't me.
All right. Well, that is right in line with what you would think of as well, though.
Yeah.
So there's a reason you two are kindred spirits.
I asked for help, yeah.
Yeah. Timmy, what are we talking about this week?
Well, John, we're talking about the Epstein files. There's been a recent dump of like 20,000 pages. And before we get started, I just want to say I didn't look into this deeply. I think this stuff is awful. I've worked with victims of trauma and want nothing but justice for the people who've been harmed. And I think looking at it from a political angle is hard because there's such a human cost. And I just want to say that up front.
Yeah, no question about it. And I actually think one of the unsung heroes of this whole entire thing is a Eager Beaver reporter by the name of Julie Brown, who wrote extensively for a number of years with the Miami Herald.
I'm reading her book.
It's Perversion of Justice. Is that the name?
Yeah.
I'm going to see if we can get her on the podcast, actually, to talk about this more in depth. And I don't necessarily want to talk about this from a political perspective and the idea of, Democrats this, Trump that, Clinton this, blah, blah, blah. But rather, I do want to acknowledge the hard work and sort of shoe leather, if you will, of Julie Brown of the Miami Herald. Her examination of that book, largely is credited with ultimately leading to the indictment and conviction of Epstein, or excuse me, his indictment. He committed suicide in prison in 2019.
He died suspiciously in prison.
That's another thing we'll talk about in just a second. Secondarily, she forced the resignation of Alexander Acosta, who was the U.S. attorney in South Florida that negotiated, by most accounts, if not all accounts, a very lenient plea deal with Jeffrey Epstein in 2008, I believe it was, that allowed him to avoid prison. And so she is one of the unsung heroes. But I think really the heroes are the victims of this that have, given testimonials and spoken to it and such.
Two other heroes. Joe Ricari was a detective who did a lot of legwork on this back in like 2005, 2006 for Palm Beach. And I think it's Michael Ryder was, I think, his superior in the police system as well. And these guys, in as much as they had the power to do it, were trying to do the right thing. And Joe has since passed, but those guys are also, what I'd say part of the good guys. So.
To me, the reason this has got sort of legs and currency is there's prominent names in the Epstein files that are likely to be released. They anticipate the vote tomorrow, Tuesday. I believe that's the 18th of November. They expect the House to pass it, and it's going to be unanimous. And why that matters is President Trump had long, and he is the master of distraction, had long said, nothing to see here, this is a Democratic hoax. But it's actually his team, sort of the MAGA base, if you will, that has been demanding these files be released. And there was basically an internal revolt. And for many people, including the Wall Street Journal, they've said maybe this is the first signs of light between Trump and the iron grip on his party. That being said, there's other significant names in there as well, both Democrats and Republicans. And the question I have to you, Timmy, from this whole experience is there a different rule set for people of affluence, wealth, power, and so forth than there is for the rest of us? Because I say that, and let me just give you sort of an analogy. I've always heard from my friends who are African American, you just don't understand what it's like to deal with the police. This type of thing was always happening, police brutality and so forth. And again, my wife's grandfather was the chief of police. Not all cops are bad. What I'm saying is having the presence of body cameras, video cameras, iPhones and such has sort of brought to light things that African Americans had been saying had been going on for a long time. And my one buddy who's black would say, look, you can't understand until you're black. It's just a different rule set for us than it is for everybody else. Do you see an analogy between that and Epstein? Is there a different rule set for people of affluence from your perspective as a psychiatrist?
Well, first of all, to hit the African-American thing, I think it was Roland Fryer who's looked into police-involved shootings and things like that, and has seemed to find that at the more extreme levels of violence, like the officer-involved shooting, there isn't a statistical difference between how cops treat black folks and white folks or other folks. But at the lower level, at a traffic stop where a white guy, might get to just drive away, the African-American
slow down kid, the African-American ends up in prison.
Or at least searched or beaten up or roughed up because he was resisting. And at the lower levels, that looks like a real phenomenon. So just to hit that point, I agree with you.
Well, I think, and this is probably true across paradigms as well with affluence. And what I mean by that is what they're finding is poor whites, poor blacks, poor Hispanics have the same experience regardless of their skin color because of their poverty, as opposed to affluence. Right. And so there is an element. I mean, when they're talking about integrating schools now, one of the things, even the Supreme Court has called this out, which is race can't be considered or is no longer an acceptable factor in university admissions. But universities have said this is not as big a deal as you think because there's 1,000 ways to skin the cat. And a lot of times you can integrate based on, economics. If you have poor parents, your experience is going to be different than if you have parents of middle means or higher means and so forth. Yeah. But going back to my original point, do you think that there is a different rule set? Because this entire Epstein thing is appalling to me. I don't want to cast aspersions. I don't have evidence. I don't know certain things. I'm just going on what's being reported in the news. The former Attorney General Bill Barr and his family were actively involved. Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide under extraordinarily, questionable circumstances in a high security prison in New York City. How that happened, it's not out of the realm of possibility, is it, Tim? That they said, hey, get this guy to disappear.
Yeah.
Some of these more powerful people. Is there a different rule set?
Yeah, so I would say as long as there are people who are willing to put their career or their pocketbook first, there's a different rule set for these people, because it counts on people being able to cave and being able to be bought and being able to be intimidated. And as long as those are things, people who can intimidate, who can buy, will get different results, or can get different results. And
this thing with P. Diddy's another example, right, Timmy?
Yeah.
This has been going on for years.
Yeah.
And he was ultimately found guilty. It's how does this escape public knowledge for that long? Or is it just people who know and they just choose not to do something? That's what I'm really sort of fascinated by, which is, how does Jeffrey Epstein get away with this for this long without being caught?
Well, here's what I think. So there's a great book. There's a lot of them, but Eichmann in Jerusalem, and they talk about the banality of evil, right? So I think there are people who are I'm going to call them evil, right? Like what Jeffrey Epstein did, I consider evil. And then there are people who see advantage in looking the other way or facilitating, and those are the force multipliers for evil. And in his world, he had plenty of those. He had Ghislaine Maxwell. He had the girls recruiting other girls. Like, it's just that's how this thing continues and gets by over time.
Are you concerned of what's going to be in these files? Because I am. If our president, whether it's Joe Smith or Joe Blow or whatever, if it's Donald Trump, if it's Bill Clinton, if it's this, if it's that, I find it to just be beyond the pale of discussing. Now, there's no question that both Trump and Epstein, Trump and Clinton, I should say, have been on his private jet and things of that nature. But knowing this person and engaging in that behavior are two different things, are they not? Are you concerned? I'm legitimately concerned about what this ultimately is going to foretell.
I don't think so. Well, first of all, John, if there's a smoking gun, what's to say that somebody hasn't already pulled it out of the dump? Like, we'll never know what we don't know.
Oh, you mean they already got rid of the...
Yeah.
Sort of like Nixon getting rid of the 19 minutes on the tapes?
Yeah. So,
gotcha.
or the missing video in Epstein's cell, right?
Oh, isn't that remarkable? Yeah,
it's just,
the video happened to go blank.
Yeah. So I don't think that's it. And what are we going to learn? Donald Trump is a lousy human being, right? If he's done crimes, he should be pursued for them. But guilt by association is dangerous.
It's dangerous. It is. No, you're absolutely correct. And I am a big believer, and I've said this a gazillion times. People are innocent, period, full stop, until proven guilty. And simply, smoke by fire, there's smoke, so it has to be fire, doesn't necessarily equate in the justice system. Is this provable? Is this a known fact? And that's why I'm going to really go, and I'm going to dedicate myself to seeing if we can get Julie Brown on to talk about this, because you and I don't know the ins and outs. And to be perfectly candid with you, I don't know if I want to know the ins and outs.
Yeah.
It's so appallingly gross.
It is.
And I have 2 daughters. Not that matters. A human being should be appalled by this. But my point being is I'm curious to see what's in these damn files and how many people, how big this goes. Because you remember the Panama Papers, right, Timmy?
Yeah.
This is wealthy people just using financial instruments to hide their money. And one of the things I lament is there seems to be the death of shame. Nobody's ashamed anymore of their behavior, number one. And number two, this could explain why I'll never be seriously affluent. By global standards, you and I are doing just fine, but I will never have hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm okay with that. But why are you hiding your money if you're already worth hundreds of millions of dollars? How much is enough, right? It's that old line in Wall Street. Gordon, how many boats can you ski behind, right? I just don't get it after a while.
Yeah. No, it's troubling. But the thing though that I think this is just the logical extension of moral relativism. So there's no real distinction. It's just a matter of gradation between moral relativism and complete amorality. So let me give you an example. There are people who want to say sex work is just a career like any other career. Okay, folks need health benefits. It's just, it's a respectable job. If that's the case, then these young girls just started working at McDonald's at 14. They just started their careers early, which is a completely ridiculous premise. But if you're a moral relativist, you're close to that. And you're like, well, Epstein does what he does. And it's that sort of thing that I think poisons a society. And we used to have ways to keep track of this, right? You didn't see Billy Graham riding on Epstein's plane, right? And
we don't know, Tim.
We don't know.
Let's wait until, like you said, we don't. I mean, may he rest in peace. I don't know much about Billy Graham. Blah blah blah. But this is one of the things that you and I differ on, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. I don't know if I'm prepared to look to religious figures to answer unknown questions. And you may be comfortable with that. That's fine. But what happens if there's a significant religious figure that was caught on the Epstein plates? Does that devalue?
No, but I think the notion that some things are just wrong, right? I think people can convince themselves that that's not the case. And this is a perfect example that something was very wrong for a very long time, and a lot of people knew. And are they legally culpable? No, but should they feel guilty about it? Should they have done something different? Absolutely.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, and you're not going to hear me disagree. I suppose the differences between you and me is the gradations, as you said earlier, and the degrees, because I think what Epstein and his cohorts are involved in is reprehensible, is beyond the pale of appalling, and yet I believe in the legalization of prostitution. I think those two, I can have those two competing thoughts relatively easy in my head. I really can. I'm not saying that I would want that choice for my daughter, but I do believe that people's agency is people's agency, and you should be able to choose. It's sort of like drugs. You can drink alcohol. I don't understand the difference between that and cocaine. And again, I'm minimizing it, but we've had this discussion before. I think that personal choice supersedes sort of legality. I think it's important to recognize people's agency to make these decisions. And yes, people should have the right to make bad decisions.
Well, but okay, let's go a little further, John. There are places in the world where people are married in their teens, right?
But again, my stipulation, and I just got to cut you off. My stipulation always is consent and adults. Those two words. Are you able to give consent, and are you an adult? That's it. So people are like, well, what if you want to marry your horse? You can't marry your horse. They don't have the ability to give a consent. 13-year-olds should not be being sold for, dowries in Middle Eastern countries. I think those competing thoughts can be held and still think that what Jeffrey Epstein and his cohorts did is appalling. So
yeah.
So
well, and I will say this though too, John. I don't think it's a huge step from people who looked the other way for political advantage to people who are diving in for political advantage to all this. And now they're suddenly appalled. And now they want to get to the bottom of it to score cheap political points. I don't think there's a heck of a lot of difference between the enablers and the ignorers.
No, I
and
think you're right, unfortunately. Yeah, and one of the things that I have come to realize, my brother, who is nothing if not cynical, has said to me ad infinitum over the last year since I've taken a step back, the problem that you have, JB, and that's my initials, is that you are a true believer in that, going into politics and public service is a noble profession. And he said that may be true, but not at these levels. I think if you get to certain levels of political influence, whether it be senator or president or this or that, it's kind of like The Godfather, Senator Corleone, Governor Corleone, that there is an element of dirt that follows you for better or for worse. And I think you're absolutely right. Let me ask you this, to your point. Do you think that people at that level are just kind of dirtballs and this is the least shocking extension of their behavior?
I can't say I'm super surprised at this kind of thing. I don't think they're all dirtballs. And I think, a lot of them can try to operate, but I think it's very easy to make compromises, especially when there's, such power and money involved.
Huh. Well, on the most dismaying answer I've ever been given, I'm going to go outside and stand in traffic right now, Tim. Let's revisit this, but I'm going to definitely see if I can get Julie Brown to come on. But I'm curious to see what the files show. And then, this could be the most vanilla discussion we've ever had. That, it's exactly what we thought it was, which is powerful people misbehaving. And, Prince Andrew has already been stripped of his royal title and so forth. But to your point earlier, it's not as that you can't tell me the family didn't know about this in 1995, and they're just suddenly now going, oh, he's no longer part of the royals. It seems to me that's convenient, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But I want to see if there's more to this, and this is an open-ended discussion. And again, I don't want to in any way, shape, or form see this as sort of a Democrats see it this way, Republicans see it that way. I will say, though, Trump ordered his department, he called it his Department of Justice, to investigate people of note. And of course, everyone of note was a Democrat. So, there's nothing he can't get out of. I'm curious to see where this one takes us, though. So,
yeah.
And if they have blood on their hands in the proverbial sense, they should have to answer for it. I think they should.
Yeah.
So, well, Timmy, why don't you tell us your whack job, and then I'm going to tell you my hero.
All right. So my whack job, give me a little runway here. There's a history lesson.
I love history. You know that.
Yeah. So about 25 years ago at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, they were making an admissions brochure, and they had the perfect pictures of students at a football game. However, there was one problem with the picture. No worries. Photoshop could help. They photoshopped in the image of an African-American student, and they got caught. It was Diallo Chavez was the student who, wasn't at the game and kind of noticed. So they were trying to achieve the look of diversity through, let's just say, rather immoral means. Okay. So fast forward, 2023, there was a suit whereby an employee of the University of Wisconsin just got a settlement, $265,000 settlement from the university, which of course didn't admit any responsibility. But what it looks like happened is she was a white lady who was a head of a DEI department at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, and was demoted so that they could make the photo look better and put a person of color in that position. And then she was retaliated against. And just so you know, getting retaliated against is part and parcel with what the University of Wisconsin does.
By the way, what do you think the over-under is, and when we get a cease and desist letter? Yeah. And by the way, I'm totally selling you down the river if that comes. It's not me, it's him. You can go back and listen to all of our podcasts. Yeah. No, I'll stand tall with you, Timmy. You have the right to say what you want. But yeah, go ahead. So anyway.
Well, but also, John, so here's the deal. We just talked about people looking the other way and facilitating evil, right?
You're not saying that Photoshop is evil, are you? Well, I get it. I get your point.
But what I'm saying is, if you think discrimination based on race, right? You think judging people by the color of their skin, if you think those are wrong, if you went along with this at the University of Wisconsin either time, you're collaborating with things which are not good. Am I saying you're an evil person? No. But I'm saying you facilitated this. When you retaliated against this lady, you facilitated it. And so we look at these awful grand scale Epstein things, and then there's the smaller scale things. And our ability to resist evil at every level empowers us and makes our world a better place. And that's why the University of Wisconsin and its regents who signed off on all this stuff are my whack jobs of the week.
Timmy, from your experience having been in medical school there, and you're married to an Indian woman, so I mean, you know of what you speak. What is the diversity breakdown in the University of Wisconsin-Madison? It probably is, I would imagine, is it reflective of the state writ large, or is it more white, more this, more that? What is your experience, or do you know?
They charge a lot of tuition, and you have to pay for all 4 years at once, I believe, if you're an international student.
Well, yeah, that's the smartest thing ever.
Yeah.
By the way, did you see international student enrollment is down 17%. So 1 out of every 6 kids. This is not a recipe for success for the United States long term. But yeah, I mean, that's smart. The odds are you're probably not going to make it through, and they get their money up front. Great.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So a lot of folks from China and Asia and other parts of the world. So demographically, that's a bigger chunk than it would be in the state. And then I think they do their best to try to recruit, African American folks and others. They're probably higher than the state percentage, not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could dig into it and get better data.
I would imagine just being a Big Ten state in north of the country, it's not going to have as many minorities as you would say find in Mississippi.
It's a pretty white state, John.
Right?
It just is.
Right. And one of the things that I tell people oftentimes is, for better or for worse, people self-segregate, which is part of the problems with our politics today, which is, Democrats only want to hear from other Democrats, Republicans only want to hear from Fox News, and so forth and so on, and people tend to self-segregate. You do the same thing in your neighborhoods, whether you realize it or not. Most of my neighborhood tends to be sort of white, Catholic, middle of the road sort of people, blah, blah, blah. That's not because I'm necessarily per se racist. It's just natural sort of assimilation. And so that's an interesting thing to me. And again, just to put a bow on this, do you know what ND stands for?
What?
No diversity.
Oh boy.
Yeah, our famous alma mater. Well, Timmy, I have kind of a unique hero, and I wanted to wait a few weeks before I called this family out for being what I would consider to be my heroes of the week. Tyler Robinson is, of course, the person that is accused, and I say accused because he has not been found guilty in a court of law, although there's a video that pretty much ties him to it, of assassinating Charlie Kirk. And I wonder, as a father, as a parent, I wonder if I would have been in the same spot. I hope I would have, and that's why I want to call out the Robinson family as my heroes of the week. They were the ones who convinced their son, upon finding out that he had done or had been accused of doing this, to turn himself in and avoid further bloodshed. They didn't justify his behavior in shooting Charlie Kirk, but they really, and the Wall Street Journal actually wrote an editorial about these folks. And I don't want to call out their name for fear of, retaliation and so forth. But, obviously everyone knows who Tyler Robinson is. And I wanted sort of the heat from this to die a little bit. That's not to say that what Tyler Robinson is accused of doing is acceptable in any way, shape, or form. It's abhorrent. I think political violence in all of its forms is wrong. But Timmy, as a parent, I wonder if I would have been strong enough to have my son turn himself in and hear on them for doing so and basically facing justice. And I think one of the things that they, in an interview, they said, look, my son's still alive. Charlie Kirk is not. And that's, they really, I think sometimes heroes off the beaten path need to be recognized, and to have sort of the true love for your son and, the pursuit of justice and make him turn himself in. I want to recognize the Robinson family for doing so. So they're my heroes of the week. Absolutely.
I totally agree.
Timmy, not to be depressing, I would like to believe I would be that strong to be able to do that, but my children, it's got to be an unbelievable position to be in, right?
Yeah. Well, and also just the feelings about I helped this person grow, and at some level their choices are their own, but like I just imagine that
right, like agency, like I said, agency matters. He's a 22-year-old man. He's not 14.
Yeah.
So yeah, but they really stepped up in the pursuit of justice and made their son turn himself in. So yeah. So, but on a lighter note, Timmy, what are you doing for Thanksgiving before I forget? You having the in-laws?
We're hosting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is your sister-in-law going to bring Kamala Harris's stuffing recipe this year?
The only good thing to come out of Kamala Harris on the public national scale is that stuffing.
As you see it, let's preface
kind of like
this.
her, John. A stuffing, not really, no real meat to it or anything. It looks good and little mildly spicy. Yeah, that's what do we it's perfect fit.
Fair enough. Now, final question: is it Thanksgiving in your house unless you have the cranberry that has the can shape? I think every house has to have the cranberry on the table that comes straight out of the can. Like,
nope. Belief makes it from cranberries. The state
does she really?
State fruit of Wisconsin.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, I send you some stuff. Maybe you can freeze dry and send me some stuff. What do you think?
Deal.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Timmy, listen, have a great week, pal. More to come on this. Obviously, I'm going to do my best to get Julie Brown on to join us for the podcast for all dozens and dozens of you that are listening. Listen, this is John Bullen signing off saying, hey, misbehave, drive fast, take chances.
And this is Tim saying, if everybody likes what you're doing, you're probably not doing anything worthwhile. Let's keep talking.